would make sense to at least include that if you're going to keep all the Daredevil events canon.
It would make sense to do that. But, you know, I mean, maybe he's just a big dude with obscene strength. Have you ever been punched by a guy that fat?
If he gets hit through the car. Have you been punched by a guy that fat? You get punched
Too
by
many
fat
times.
guys all the time. Yeah.
It's the only people I fight.
It's not over until we watch the new Rockstars breakdown today for the Hawkeye finale. Sure, there's going to be some good things to say, especially after hearing Eric Voss voice some of his opinions about the finale as well. Anywho, guys, I'm sure either way this is going to cause us to appreciate that finale even more so. I had some messages yesterday on my social media about people asking where I got this Hawkeye shirt. We got it from the Epic Hero shop over at New Rockstars. Yeah, this one. It was about to go in the laundry basket, but I wanted to show it here right now. And then we got these two from there as well. So, yeah, they got great merch. Great merch. They didn't ask us to plug it. I'll just kill two birds with one stone by answering it here. Let's watch this.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Hawkeye Episode 6, the series finale, So This Is Christmas. A title that reminds us that this show is, at its heart, a Christmas treat. A title also citing John Lennon and Yoko Ono's Happy Xmas, War Is Over, and that song's children's choir, much like the angelic voices of this episode.
Happy Christmas.
Let's break down
did it.
this
Tied it
finale
in.
shot by shot for everything interesting you might have missed. And heads up, I am going to include spoilers for both Hawkeye and Spider-Man No Way Home. The episode opens with the King,
Nice.
Wilson Fisk,
Crossover
Kingpin,
we
Vincent
wanted.
D'Onofrio returning in the same delivery as the character in the Netflix Marvel Daredevil. This first shot we see of him is actually his cane, an interesting parallel to our
Daredevil.
very first shot of Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock, in Spider-Man No Way Home. Kane first. And as Fisk approaches, the camera shoots him from below and then shoots Eleanor down from above. And then throughout, the scene continues to frame Kingpin huge from the surface
That
of
is
his
cool.
desk in the foreground. And then when it cuts back to Eleanor, she is small in frame on the other side of the desk, just some forced perspective to heighten the size differential and to make Kingpin all the more intimidating. There's also a reflection of Fisk in the door behind Eleanor, giving us the sense that he is surrounding her.
That was one thing I really did appreciate about this episode was how they managed to capture the size of Kingpin. Like the last episode ended with that silhouette of Kingpin over the city. And then when you introduce him in this very first scene, there is something about his scale. And then especially considering the fact that this episode really makes him stronger, physically stronger than he already has been, that size really does pack a punch.
Eleanor begins.
We've had a good relationship, haven't we, Wilson?
Yes.
Yes, Kingpin has gotten good at reading people, and D'Onofrio twitches his eye from the very beginning of the scene until it just lashes out in a rage by the scene's end. The twitching eye also foreshadows his off-screen fate when he is shot by Maya Lopez, but as in the Daredevil comics, will probably just walk away blinded. There's a shot of Midtown Manhattan that shows the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood, the domain of Kingpin, kind of the heart of Kingpin's grip on the city, and of course the stomping grounds of Matt Murdock. And you can see some industrial steam blocking out the view of the skyline. But there's actually a new tower added between the Empire State Building and the Bank of America Tower on the right side,
Oh,
of the
interesting.
ring, and those really, really tall Central Park towers on the left. I don't think this tower exists in real life. And yes, it is interesting that it is masked by steam here. This is roughly where Avengers Tower used to be located. That tower was always CGI'd over the real-life MetLife building, which is located beside Grand Central Station. However, this episode actually shows us the MetLife building later on in a shot of Comcast Tower, aka 30 Rock. But in that shot, there is that large blue tower right beside it that I also don't think exists in real life. So the MCU might have actually relocated former Avengers Tower slightly in the city's geography. And the steam back in that establishing shot makes me wonder if something was being masked from this building, because we know in Far From Home, Spider-Man sailed right through a new atrium that was constructed in that tower by its new occupant. This series doesn't really confirm the answer to that, but it could be Fisk Tower or the Fantastic Four Baxter Building.
Bravo. That's a beautiful one.
Well done.
That's a beautiful catch.
How
Whole
much-
shit ton of buildings in that shot. And you're like, what is the, do you look at every building?
I was gonna say, did you get a Thomas guide and like look at the entire layout of the city, cross-reference all the buildings built?
How the hell did you catch that? A lot of times I feel like, are we over-reading into this building? Sometimes I think that, but the fact that it is covered by steam and it is something that is not within New York City, unless we're all wrong. you get the blame. But unless we're wrong, then they would have to be covered that up for a very specific reason. It's where the mutants come from. That's where Wolverine is.
It's a mutant factory.
That's
Cranking them out.
Xavier's School for the Gifted right there in the center, in a big building that you can visit.
Maya Lopez meets with Kazi and Kingpin, who now changed into a red Hawaiian shirt, his exact outfit from the cover of the Spider-Man comic Family Business. Notice how Fisk only knows certain words in ASL.
I always taught you to keep a low profile.
He knows low profile in sign language, probably a recurring reminder that he has repeated since she was young. Maya claims to have dropped her Ronin pursuit, but Kingpin does not buy it. And notice how his eye twitch returns and he tells Kazi,
The people need to be reminded that the city belongs to me.
echoing the kind of words he would use in the Netflix Daredevil show.
I wanted to make this city something better than it is. Something beautiful. You took that away from me!
This is my city. My family.
You know, I just thought about what if they're building, because they have Daredevil in Spider-Man, right? And Spider-Man's going to be in his college years now, where he's probably going to be more street level. So what if Charlie Cox could be some type of partner or a father figure of sorts, and it's building to a showdown where they have to go up against Kingpin?
Oh, that would be so
How
cool.
sweet would that be?
That would be so, because that would take care of everything. You would get your badass team up fighting, obviously, but then, you know, Matt Murdock has tons of relatable experience that Peter could benefit from.
Yeah, because he's been like an arch nemesis for both Daredevil and Spider-Man in so many ways.
Then a montage shows Clint and Kate assembling a whole bunch of trick arrows, one of many Christmas movie homages in this episode, recalling that planning montage in Home Alone. You'll notice they have another Pym arrowhead, but whereas the previous one glowed blue, the color for Pym discs that enlarge stuff, this one has a red interior, the color of Pym particles and discs that shrink things. And along with Too Dangerous, the other labels read airbag, freeze, flash bomb, icebreaker, all things we see used in the final battle.
That guy's leg.
Wait a minute. Did I just catch another CGI shot? Look at Clint's face. I only catch these on new Rockstars breakdowns, am I right? That looks like a CGI face, doesn't it? Look at that face.
It could be, yeah, it could be warping a little bit.
It looks like a warped face.
I don't know why you would need to CG that, but you might be right. I mean, it looks, yeah, I can't quite tell, but you
Looks
yeah.
digital. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Either way, that one guy's losing that leg.
You tell me if I'm wrong.
He uses electromagnetism to attract metal, which is similar tech to how Cap would retract his shield to his arm in Age of Ultron. Then a series of Stark arrowheads that are tipped with red and gold, of course, Iron Man's colors, ones that were probably designed by Tony Stark for Clint. Kate recalls the episode 1 prologue when she saw Clint fighting Chitauri without any superpowers or tech, unlike Iron Man in that battle.
You showed me that being a hero isn't just for people who can fly or shoot lasers out of their hands. It's for anyone.
But I guess being a hero is for people using the weapons built by the guys who shoot lasers out of their hands. We see a caravan of Trust a Bro trucks pulling up to 30 Rock. Yes, once again, we hear Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy from Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker, and that classical music evokes the way Hans Gruber's crew was scored with Ode to Joy as they arrived in Die Hard.
Trust the Bros are just as menacing.
More menacing.
Ivan also says Red 1 in position, like he's part of the Red Squadron in Star Wars. Yelena arrives to the party in a green coat, another production design element pulled from Home Alone, in which several shots of that movie have both red and green somewhere in the frame, like the McAllisters' year-round yet still Christmassy wallpaper, which they did to give that movie an all-time Christmassy feel. This episode often does the same thing. Not just with Christmas decorations everywhere, literally in the costuming of red and green suited tracksuit.
Yeah,
clothes,
good
and
catch.
just random background set decorations. Clint spots Kazi's sniper
catch,
in the champagne,
Tim.
and he quickly uses the serving platter to deflect the bullet, and all hell breaks loose. Kate boards the elevator with Yelena and wrestles with her until the top tears away to her new purple Hawkeye Archer top, which I just really appreciate because it was Yelena's probing interrogation episode 5 that helped Kate realize why exactly she wanted to be an Avenger. And in another Christmas movie homage, Kate pulls a Buddy the Elf on the elevator buttons.
Come on, that is so
so
annoying.
pretty. Like a Christmas tree.
Suka is Russian for bitch. Kate chases Yelena in a cool lateral tracking shot through the office space, reminding us of the awesome.
That's what I said.
And this means that on the Hawkeye set, they likely had to build a whole set with a dollhouse opening to roll in front of. But they do conceal a cut as they move from the kitchen into the lobby. And here, this firm is called Tanner, Dees and Associates. Olivia Tanner was a set decoration coordinator for the show. Courtney Dees was a set decoration PA. It's really cool how the Marvel shows will work in the names of the cast and crew with visual details.
I appreciate
Kate
that.
slings her bulla at Yelena's widow staff to knock it out the window, and then they end up complimenting each other as creepy baby Santa and watches. Yelena anchors herself with that repelling line, and the camera reorients with her as she scales down the building.
That is a fantastic shot.
The Empire State Building is framed perfectly behind her, and then Kate has to jump out a window the same way she saw Hawkeye do when she was a kid, but miraculously lands unharmed.
That is cool, because I was picking up on parallels for the first episode and this one with like Kate shooting the arrow, knocking down the Christmas tree, doing better than she did with the clock. When she fights the tracksuits, how the first time she did, she was like unconfident and a little messy. This time she's really confident and is more calculated and better. There with the shot of her jumping out of the window, I didn't even think about, oh yeah, she saw that with Clint. That was one of the first things she ever saw when she was a child. And now this is really her arc of becoming the Hawkeye.
Yeah, and she did that with him in the middle of it, you know, so you can chart the sort of passing of that baton.
Yeah. I think you're reading too much into it.
Jack saves her, proving he really is just a naive dummy who loves swords. Cool. As the tracksuit creep up on Clint,
Cool. He's got an opinion.
Grenades to cover the area, which was the same device that Clint used on the Outriders, who chased him in Endgame. And then Clint tries to pull a John McClane out the window, but he ends up more like the Wet Bandits in Home Alone, whose zip line also breaks, and then he ends up stuck in the tree, where he meets the cutest owl. Cute for now. This owl is a reference to an owl that was found in the 30 Rock Christmas tree last Christmas. A cute owl named Rocky. Kate throws a tricycle through the window.
That's
of Toy
awesome.
Story at Mayo
All
Shores,
about that.
just like Kevin McAllister does to break the window and trip the alarms of the toy store in Home Alone 2. And she also stands on that big keyboard, just like Tom Hanks does at Mayo Shores and Big.
Forrest
Kate
Gump.
timbers the tree by breaking the wires and shooting an acid arrow at the trunk, calling back her unintentional demolition of Stain Tower back in episode 1. And as the tree falls, you can actually see that owl flying out of it. On the ice, Clint uses the magnetic arrow to snatch all of their guns. And Clint reveals he wore his new suit underneath his torn shirt. A classic superhero shortcut, proving he has come full circle on that branding issue.
I wish there was a little bit more attention put towards Clint in this episode in that regard too, because there was such that fantastic like diner scene they had where he was talking about how I'm no hero and he feels like such a big sense of shame about himself. Like he really didn't view himself in a heroic light. Not that I'm saying Clint should walk out and go, I'm a hero.
Guys, step aside. It's fine.
I am the Hawkeye.
I've arrived. Nothing to fear.
What target do you have for me today? I'm just saying that personally, just as a little preference, would have liked a little bit more emphasis on he really has accepted the fact that he is indeed a hero.
Yeah, and accentuating that through the tone. And I feel like, yeah, he definitely kicks ass, but it's in a very straightforward manner the way the episode is posed.
Doesn't have to be a full scene, just like one little quirk of dialogue, even with Kate being like, see, you are a hero. Shut up, Kate. Something like that. You know,
branding.
It keeps it still Clint.
I don't mind the purple.
Then they just unleash all the trick arrows in the tracksuits. It is awesome. Kate once again uses her bow as a springboard, uses her legs to tackle a guy the way Black Widow would do. But the most unsettling
females.
arrow, of course, is that red glowing Pym arrow that shrinks the Trust-a-Bro truck.
What happens to them now?
I don't know. I'll have to ask Scott about that one.
Yes, telling us that Clint might have gotten this tech from Scott directly, not Hank Pym, and that Clint and Scott's partnership after Civil War continued.
It's also kind of a mirroring effect because in Civil War, Scott, he threw a truck during that airport fight. He used it to make it larger though, and this is reversed where they take a truck and make it smaller. See?
The mirroring.
My contribution!
It all rhymes. It's lyrical.
But then the owl snatches him away, and no joke, the captions of this episode label their squeaky screams as children shouting. This is the most horrific MCU death since Darren Cross shrunk Hank into a plop of twitching goo. So that owl either fed these tiny humans to its children or used its talons to crush them and then pull them apart limb by limb with its beak. Marvel, please. Pym tech deaths are terrifying. I kind of love them.
Yeah.
That
is horrific.
Get a one shot with just the two of them, shrunken
was
form.
possible.
No, it's not impossible. The first arrow you release just has to be wood.
So when you release the second one, splits it right up the middle.
I call bullshit. I've tried it.
Well, I've done it a few times.
But Kazi catches the middle arrow the way Loki does in Avengers, which just makes me think that this guy has got to be juiced on something. A lot of the tracksuits are. Or it could just be the show suddenly remembered that this character exists and decided to give him something to do. I mean, in this episode, a lot of Kazi's dialogue is not really ADR'd in.
You know what I have to do. Don't make me do this, Maya.
I don't know, it just looks like they had to reconfigure a lot of this in post-production to bring many of these subplots to a close in a 6th episode.
Eric doesn't review often during the breakdowns.
Yeah.
And you can
But
feel
you can
these
tell
little shades of opinions piercing through.
Of what worked and maybe didn't work for Eric.
Kazi tells Maya, I guess calling back to William's advice to Maya in episode 3, but other than that photo of the three of them together and then the references to Kazi being his number 2, we never really feel any context to William and Kazi's relationship for this callback to make sense to come from Kazi. Clearly, Farafi's role in this series was super trimmed down. It's a bummer. Yelena asks Clint what happened to Natasha.
definitely.
Your sister sacrificed herself. She saved the world. I'm sorry.
You're lying.
I love the shot composition with Yelena because behind her, that fallen Christmas tree with all of its lights looks like infinite infinity stones that are all out of focus because she doesn't care about the dumb Rainbow Rock stakes that Natasha gave her life over. In truth, neither does Clint anymore. Kingpin rips off Eleanor's door, literally opening a door to possibility this time after the Netflix show made him famous for slamming car doors closed. Kate plunges an arrow into his chest, but it has no effect. Kingpin in the comics is bulky because of layers of muscle, and in Daredevil, he wore body armor. But the Kingpin of this show is also super strong. He's getting plowed through windows of buildings, he's ripping off car doors, he's punching people across rooms. I'm wondering if this Kingpin strength may also be a factor of a dosage of some kind of super soldier serum.
Vincent D'Onofrio recently came out and he did say directly that this is the same Kingpin from Daredevil, that this arc serves as like some type of purpose for him wanting to regain back his power, which would line up with that line early on in the episode of like, we need to remind this city. So with that in mind, I'm like, okay, how Eric just pointed out the fact that he had body armor before and he is like obnoxiously strong this time around, they would have to justify it in some way, or maybe not, I don't know. I personally feel like they would have to justify it in some way. So the super soldier serum, how that's been like a big part of the MCU in total, would make sense to at least include that if you're going to keep all the Daredevil events canon.
It would make sense to do that. But, you know, I mean, maybe he's just a big dude with obscene strength. Have you ever been punched by a guy that fat?
If he gets hit through the car. Have you been punched by a guy that fat? You get punched by fat guys all the time, man.
It's the only people I fight.
Kate notices him adjusting his cufflinks, and then, yeah, he gets rammed into the toy store, and Kate bravely engages this huge man despite his insane strength. He snaps her trick arrows, but then she uses this because she leaps on his arm where she saw him adjusting the cufflink, and you can see the moment she snatches that cufflink from his sleeve. That was her objective. So then she uses Clint's coin flicking trick to activate that one magnetic arrow, which starts a chain reaction to the too dangerous one, but also triggers that sonic blast and that cluster bomb arrow all at once. These all cook Fisk, and then he lies motionless, and in that shot you can see the cufflink missing. Kate
nice,
has her mom
great
arrested.
catch.
Good script supervision.
The murder of Armand Duquesne III. Turn around, please.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this scene was reshot as well because the background looks like a plate, the detective's lines are off screen, and the detective we do see has just a really weird eye line. Hey, who are you looking at? I think Eleanor might also have been reworked in post-production because we never really see her kill Armand, see her kill anyone. I'm betting that there was an alternate ending with her character, maybe her dying instead of just getting arrested like this.
I mean, but we also got to go off of your previous breakdowns. There's red and blue flashing lights on her face, reflective of Spider-Man.
I do like how the police lights flash red and blue on their faces, the color of the webhead hero that whips them together.
Spider-Man has to be coming for Eleanor.
Eleanor's the next Spider-Man villain in Spider-Man 4.
No, I completely agree with you. They definitely rework shit last minute. You can feel it all the time. I do wonder if some of this last minute reworking was because they might not have been confident in getting a season 2 for this particular show.
The only other thing I could think of was like maybe Vincent D'Onofrio wasn't like fully locked in until late, but I don't know. I feel like that's something you would want to have planned out from the start.
Clint is able to turn Yelena by repeating that whistle that she shared with her sister.
Why did you say that, Whistle?
And Clint reveals how Natasha told him about the events in the Black Widow prologue, escaping Ohio on a plane, being separated from Yelena. In doing so, he reverts Yelena to her American Pie singing innocence before she became a killer. Clint apologizes to her, and Yelena decides to leave, probably to pave a future on some Dark Avengers or Thunderbolts lineup with Val and John Walker. And notice how only now it begins to snow. This tells us that the final scene of Spider-Man No Way Home, in which Peter Parker swings through 30 Rock Plaza past the tree, while around the same time might have been a different night because that tree was still upright and it was fully snowing in that scene. So don't worry, we don't have to look in the background for Peter swinging around here. And inside,
You're good, man.
In the background,
Spider-Man was busy
Nutcrackers
that day.
flank an empty throne. Considering how much the tracksuits self-identified with Nutcracker music, you could interpret these as the tracksuits who now protect an empty throne, at least temporarily empty, with Kingpin's latest setback, which we see in the next scene as Maya finds him and points a gun at him.
Sometimes family doesn't see eye to eye.
That eye line is such a foreshadowing.
Pulled up before we saw a body, so no corpse, no death. What happened, snowman in the window? What did you see? Well, yes, we do hear both a gunshot and a thud to the ground. But notice how Kingpin said eye to eye.
Yeah.
That has got to be a nod to the similar moment in the Daredevil comics when Daredevil tells Echo about Kingpin's lies, and Echo shoots Kingpin in the face. But we later find out that he's just blinded by this, and he actually later on after that gets some reconstructive surgery.
The reconstructive surgery was a little bit debated in the comics, especially because it's not like he, had some disease or what. It's like he got shot.
Yeah. His eyes were destroyed. I don't know what reconstruction you could do. I feel like a bionic eye is more plausible at that point.
Superhero story. They can do anything with the technology they have. They nanotech it or something.
We will see Kingpin in the MCU again, but the next time he will be temporarily blind or maybe with an eye patch, but fully blind would make him a more interesting foe to Maya Lopez in the Echo series, and of course the perfect foe to Daredevil, who also now joins the MCU. Clint lets Kate join him on Christmas Day.
Handicap cinematic universe.
Notice how Clint smiles at the front porch. That might be because sitting in that bucket is the baseball glove that he recovered from his son during the Time Heist trial in Endgame to prove that things could be removed from the past and prove that he could reunite with his family. Kate brings the dog along.
That's Lucky.
As expected, they settled on the name Lucky, as the dog is named in the Fraction comics. And Clint returns that Rolex to Laura, and on the back is a SHIELD logo, Laura's face reflected in that shield, and the number 19, which is a reference to SHIELD Agent 19, the designation for Mockingbird Bobby Morse in the comics, but in this case, the number for Laura Barton, at least before she retired. This explains Laura's espionage professionalism throughout the series, and makes Tony Stark's first words upon meeting Laura in Age of Ultron super ironic.
This is an agent of some kind.
Outside, Clint and Kate barbecue the Roanoke suit, and as they return to the house brainstorming names for her, settling on the title of Hawkeye, in the foreground, the archery target comes into frame, the same target from Clint's opening scene in Avengers Endgame. That was the moment that truly began this final chapter of Clint's journey, final we think, and now Kate Bishop helped bring him home. And then we get a post-credit scene showing the full Save the City song from Rogers the Musical. The conductor is actually a cameo by the composer of that song, Mark Shaman, who wrote the music and the lyrics alongside Scott Whitman, both of them longtime Broadway greats behind Hairspray and a number of other titles. Little new details.
No wonder it's so good.
The performer hits his big note. His shield, Mike Wazowski's the Hawkeye performer, who awkwardly has to move out from behind it. But there's also a crazy cut in this moment where Hawkeye goes from being on Cap's left to being right beside Hulk. And then in the final part of the song, Thor and Loki hold hands. Aww. In the meantime, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything Marvel. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Goodbye, Eric.
That's the end of New Rockstars. I mean, no, New Rockstars. New Rockstars is over. They're going out on this one.
Go out on the highest note possible with Wilson Fisk and his poor eyes.
At least in the some of the direction and shots and production design, it did make me appreciate the episode more. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy belated Hanukkah, Happy New Year.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Thank you so much for being part of this channel with us. We'll see you guys soon.